The next question comes from Sid the Ape 2. Jingles, cartoons or anime? I'm gonna say cartoons, and not because I don't like anime. Like, I have nothing against anime. I mean, I used to be kind of like, oh, anime sucks, it's really stupid. But I've kind of grown out of that now, and if you do a detailed study of the history of, like, Japanese art in general, going all the way back to the Middle Ages, the Japanese have always, like, kind of loved their cartoony stuff. Like, I went to, at the British Museum, they had an exhibition on, a couple of years back, on Japanese antiques and artwork and stuff like that, and it was really kind of fascinating, because you went in there, and they had drawings in there and paintings from Japan that dated back to, like, the 1400s, and they looked like comic books. It was really, really, really awesome. It was actually great. They had this awesome, like, comic book style, and you kind of makes you, you know, it kind of opens your eyes as to maybe where, like, the first comic book writers actually got their inspiration from. There were some really awesome pictures as well from, like, the 1900s, during the what was it, the Russo-Japanese War, where they had these fantastic paintings of, like, sailors on battleships shooting Russian battleships and stuff like that, and it was all done, like, in this really awesome comic bookish sort of a style, and it really surprised me that they were doing that kind of artwork so long ago compared to here in the West. So, and when you look at it from that perspective, it's hardly surprising that stuff like anime has become so popular in Japan, because it's just a natural progression from those old cartoonish sort of bits of artwork from the Middle Ages and, like, the Industrial Revolution in Japan and stuff like that. So, you know, I have nothing against anime. As a result, Japan could not be without anime. It's just the way it is, and I've got nothing against it. In many ways, anime is better than cartoons because it's a lot more intelligent in some cases. I mean, obviously, there's some really terrible animes out there, but there's also terrible cartoons. But I'm going to answer with cartoons for the simple reason that I haven't watched very many anime at all, if any. I've barely watched any at all. Like, if you discount crap like Pokemon and Digimon, which I used to watch when I was little, I've not watched any serious proper animes really ever. I had a go at Steins Gate once, but I kind of went off it a bit. I didn't find it very interesting. So yeah. Whereas cartoons, I've obviously watched, like, ridiculous amounts of cartoons, like. Actually, in terms of anime, I did watch Spirited Away, if that counts as anime. I'm not even sure if it does, but anyway, Spirited Away was great. That was awesome. So, I did watch that, I suppose. But, yeah, I've watched way more cartoons, and I've enjoyed far more cartoons than I have anime. Like, the pinnacle probably being, like, the Batman cartoons from the 90s. Those things kicked ass. They were so awesome. I could go on all day about how amazing those Batman cartoons were, and that's probably what tips the balance here. So yeah, gotta say cartoons. Anyway, next question comes from Firechild14. Have you heard of the Oculus Rift? If you have, then what game would you love to play it with? I have heard of the Oculus Rift. It sounds ridiculous. I'd be hesitant to use it for the simple fact that I don't think I would ever leave my house ever after putting that thing on. For those that don't know, the Oculus Rift is basically a actual serious legitimate attempt at doing virtual reality goggles, if you like. That's basically what it is, except it's way more advanced than that. I'm probably not doing it justice by describing it as virtual reality goggles, but it does look really amazing. I've seen some articles and some videos about it and stuff like that. It does look really, really awesome. I would love to play. Well, I think the simple answer is I would love to play an Elder Scrolls game with the Oculus Rift, for the simple reason that, it's the Elder Scrolls games are like the most immersive games out there you can play, in my opinion. And the only way you could probably even make that even better was to actually put on the Oculus Rift and actually be there in Tamriel as your character. That would probably just blow my mind, actually. So yeah, I'm probably just going to say Elder Scrolls games, because the Elder Scrolls games thrive on immersing the player in the game, and I think since the Oculus Rift, the pretty much primary like pro point of the Oculus Rift is it adds to immersion. So I think that feels almost like a natural matchup, So there you go. Next question comes from Lieutenant General Store, hello, by the way. He says, how is the partnership going? Is it helping at home? And just out of curiosity, how much do you get a month? I know that's 3 questions, but they're all the same, about the same thing. Alright, so fair enough. The partnership's going fine. I've not had any real problems with it. I did initially have a bit of bother trying to get my payments set up to begin with, but TGN were very helpful with that, and they got it sorted out fairly promptly. Is it helping out at home? Yes, a great deal, actually. Yeah. We're not doing too great at home financially speaking. My dad lost his job. That was kind of what prompted the whole partnership thing in the first place. A lot of people do it just because they want a bit of extra cash, but I did it because we literally needed the money. My dad lost his job, we didn't have any income coming into the house, and we were basically running around trying to monetize the crap out of just about anything we had. And my channel naturally was a prime opportunity to do that. And once I actually did it and I realized how much money I could in theory make by doing this, that's when it became for me like, oh right, you know what, this could actually be my job, you know, from now on. So it is helping out a great deal. It's not really paying the bills to a huge extent, but it is helping us out in terms of more mundane stuff, you know. We're doing a lot of redecorating in the minute and stuff in the house. I don't normally talk about this stuff, but since it's the Q&A, what the hell, you know. We're doing a lot of redecorating because we're going to get lodgers in to try and, you know, just generate a bit of extra income for us. And that's costing a bit of money, but thankfully, because of, you know, I'm earning money from the channel through the ad revenue and stuff, and thanks, by the way, to all you guys who do sit through the adverts for me, because, you know, it's what keeps us alive and fed at the minute. Thanks to that, we're able to actually sort of cover the cost of all this kind of stuff, and eventually we'll get, you know, a lodger into the house living with us, and they'll pay us rent, and everything should be hunky-dory again. So yeah, it is helping out a lot. As for how much I get per month, I'm actually contractually obliged not to say. As part of my contract, I'm not actually allowed to tell people how much I do get per month. I don't know why exactly, but there it is. So, you know, I'd rather not void the terms of my contract, so I'm afraid you'll just have to remain in the dark about that. Sorry, guys. So, moving on. Next question comes from Zeronimus. Is that right? Zeronimus 1. I'm going to pronounce it that way. It sounds cool that way. Do you prefer playing as a warrior, thief, or mage? Well, they're all kind of fun in their own way. But I suppose I generally tend to naturally lean towards warrior in most of my playthroughs. This guy right here is a warrior, for instance. Most of the characters I played in Skyrim were warriors. Most of the ones I played in Morrowind were warriors. I've played almost no thieves in Morrowind now I think about it. If I ever do a Morrowind playthrough, I might even consider doing it with a thief character, just because I'd love to see how that turns out. You know, mages I don't generally tend not to play very often, although they are fun. You know, Idris in the Oblivion Let's Play is a perfect example of why mages can be fun. But yeah, no, generally speaking, I tend to lean towards warriors. I don't know, I feel more comfortable playing as a warrior in a heroic fantasy game like The Elder Scrolls or whatever. I don't know why, I just sort of do. There it is, there's a certain satisfaction in just pressing a button to swing sword and kill enemy. It's not too complicated, you know. I like it. It's just personal preference, that's all. So yeah, if you're curious, yeah, I generally tend to lean towards warriors, but I do enjoy all 3 class types. So, next question is from Mr. Dr. Gleich. I'm going to pronounce it that way. Is that just the German spelling of your name? And I don't know where you're from, but I'm going to pronounce it Mr. Dr. Gleich. So anyway, his question was, what do you think of the Hobbit film compared to the book? That's not a bad question, actually, and the answer is, I don't know. It's kind of difficult to say, really. I mean, I've enjoyed both. The Hobbit, obviously, is always going to remain a bit of a classic. It was very, I think it was a very difficult, very, very difficult, even more so than Lord of the Rings, a difficult task to translate the Hobbit from book to film, just because the Hobbit is really quite dated and it's full of loads of stuff in it which is essentially unfilmable. or which, you know, a lot of us thought was unfilmable until Peter Jackson came along and said, nah, you just watch me do this. You know, like, I expected a very kind of gritty version of The Hobbit when he made the film, and to an extent that was true. He did beef up the dwarves a little bit. In the book, the dwarves are kind of a bit incompetent, and they are a little bit in the film as well, but, you know, they were, you know, generally kind of incompetent, and they weren't very good combatants, and they didn't even have proper weapons, I believe, to start with. So, you know, but, you know, they did keep a lot of the really daft stuff in there, like the song they're singing when they're tidying up all the crockery after having dinner at Bilbo's house. You know, that knocked me upside the head when I first saw that in the thing. I was elated because I thought that was brilliant. One of the things I really love about Tolkien's books is that he wrote all those crazy little songs. So a lot of people don't like that, but I thought it was awesome. So I thought it was brilliant when they actually put that in the film, along with the Misty Mountains song, which everybody and the mums knows the words to by now. So yeah, no, I think I probably still prefer the book, but the films aren't done yet, so it's very difficult to judge, isn't it? So I both enjoy them for what they are. Yeah. Okay. So next question comes from Dunma 77777777777. Wow, I remember you asking questions like on one of the first Q&As I did, so you're a very long time subscriber, you are, so congratulations to you for sticking around. If you could have anyone as a follower in Skyrim from anywhere, i.e. books, movies, other games, etc., who would it be and why? Oh man, this is a good question, and I'm kind of... I feel a bit dumb now for not having read that beforehand and maybe prepared an answer, because this is a very difficult one to answer off the top of my head. In fact, I'm actually going to stop the recording here and think about it for a minute or two, and then I'll give you a proper answer instead of just some crap off the top of my head. So I think you deserve that from me. So hang on a second. Alright, I thought about it for a bit, and my final answer... Right, there's two possibilities here, right? The first is I would love to have Death from the Discworld novels following me around in Skyrim. I think that would be utterly hilarious. I can only imagine what his comments would be like. You know, I think that would be brilliant to have Death following you around. Or, and this one's kind of like a double act between two characters, I would love to have Tyrion Lannister from Game of Thrones and Edwin from Baldur's Gate, because I think the banter between the two of them will probably be ridiculously funny. So yeah, that's my answer for that one. Tyrion Lannister with Edwin, or Death from Discworld. So there you go. That's the best I could come up with, I'm afraid. Oh dear. So thanks for that question. Anyway, that was a good one. So let's see, what's the next question? That one's already been asked. What do you think? Us from 777 Valin. I think he has two questions here. Well, first being, what do you think of the Elder Scrolls Online now that there is a true first person announced? Will you play it, and what pack? The answer is yes, I will play it, of course. At least once, you know. I think everyone should play it. Give everyone, even the skeptics of this game, should at least give it a chance. I will be playing it, yeah, probably. I'll probably be playing Ebonheart Pact, just because that's the three most interesting races in the game are in that pact. So, you know, maybe I'll marry Dominion because I quite like the Altmer as well, but yeah, it's probably going to be Ebonheart Pact. My first character will probably be a Dark Elf, because in just about every single Elder Scrolls game I've played, my first character was a Dark Elf. So, yeah, I'm going to continue the tradition, so it will probably be Ebonheart Pact, at least to begin with. So, yeah, and what do I think of it now as true first person? Brilliant. Brilliant. You know what, when possible in an Elder Scrolls game, I generally tend to play in third person. I don't do it so much in Oblivion, because I don't know, for some reason when I'm recording, I tend to play in first person more often, but especially in Skyrim, I play in third person like all the bloody time. All the bloody time. It helps me get a bit more immersed in the character if I can actually see them on the screen, I feel. So yeah, if it's got a decent third person mode, I'll probably play in third person quite a lot in Elder Scrolls Online, but it is good to know that they've listened to the feedback people have given them and, you know, decided to go with a proper first person mode, because the success or failure of the Elder Scrolls Online, in my opinion, is going to hinge entirely of what Elder Scrolls fans think of it. So it is exceptionally good that they're actually listening to people and acting on the advice that they've been given. So I think that's brilliant. That's pretty brilliant. As for the game itself, I'm quietly optimistic. I don't know, obviously, how good it's going to be, because no one knows how good it's actually going to be, but I think it could be fun. You know, I mean, the main reason I'm actually looking forward to it is because I've always wanted to have, like, a sort of a co-op experience in an Elder Scrolls game, and I think the Elder Scrolls Online is probably the closest we're going to get to that, you know. I would love to just team up with a pal, or maybe 2 friends. Yeah, just 3 of us, just marching around. We'll be the Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas of Tamriel, and we'll just march around the continent. We'd like probably just goof off. We wouldn't even be doing like main quests and stuff. And just marching around Tamriel, going to mainland Morrowind, going to Vardenfell, Skyrim, Somerset Isle, Black Marsh, the lot. And just doing whatever the hell we want, because it's what I've always wanted to be able to do in an Elder Scrolls game. Just, you know, get a couple of friends or a friend and just march around the world and do stuff together. I think the Elder Scrolls games would be brilliant if you had co-op in them, but sadly Bethesda have always completely and utterly ruled that out, which is a bit sad. But never mind. So that's the main reason I'm actually looking forward to it. Obviously it's not a proper co-op experience because it is online with other players, but, you know, whenever I play, say, Guild Wars 2, it's usually a very co-op experience. I'll play with like 1 or 2 friends, and we will go around and we'll do quests and things together. We'll occasionally team up with a bunch of other dudes if there's some big boss fight that we need to all help each other do to, you know, to finish. But yeah, no, I don't know. I never really do PvP. But yeah, no, even Guild Wars 2, it's always been a bit of a co-op-esque sort of experience for me, and I hope that the Elder Scrolls Online will, you know, enable me to do that. So, you know, that's probably the main reason I'm actually looking forward to it. So, yeah, there you go. Okay, so, oh yeah, your second question from the same chap is, what is your favourite great house in Morrowind and why? Oh, good question. Okay, so I'm going to assume you're saying great house in Morrowind the game, since there are only 3 great houses in the game, whereas there are about 5, I think, in the lore, and since we know bugger all about House Dres and House Indoril, I can only really answer based on what we know about the other ones. So, but my answer is probably going to be House Redoran, and the reason for that being, okay, so House Telvanni are completely and utterly insane. You know, they're bonkers as you can possibly get. So I don't think if in real life I don't think I'd feel comfortable joining them at all. You know, bunch of weirdos. It's legal to murder other members of the house so long as you get away with it. You know, that's just insane. It's ridiculous. It's like Rapture from BioShock gone mad. So yeah, no, I don't think I'd like to be a part of House Telvanni, and House Talalu are kind of just kind of opportunistic, money-grubbing bastards, really. And they're, like Telvanni, they're kind of totally down with the slave trade, which I'm not a fan of either, for what should be obvious reasons. So yeah, my answer would be Redoran, because, yeah, you know, they seem like a vaguely sensible bunch. You know, they're a bit stubborn and stuck in their ways, and they're very religious, but yeah, I think you can forgive them for that, maybe, because with their religiousness comes a certain kind of philanthropy. You know, the Redoran are all about charity. They see it as like one of the big virtues you can have if you read all the bits of lore about them and stuff like that. You know, and they've kind of devoted themselves as being Morrowind's protectors, essentially. You know, against any threats, military-wise at least, that would, you know, threaten the people of Morrowind. So, you know, I have a lot of respect for those dudes. I think House Redoran are a bunch of cool dudes. You know, they're also the first house I actually joined in the Elder Scrolls. When I first played Morrowind, House Redoran were the dudes I went with the first time round. So, you know, yeah, I think they're pretty cool. I think they're a bunch of solid dudes, House Redoran. You know, as for Dres and Indoril, we don't know a great deal about them. Indoril seem like a bunch of really, really, really fanatical, crazy dudes. highly racist, you know, fanatically religious, and you know, I'm not sure I'm down with that. And House Dre as well, you know, they're kind of like House Lalu except more conservative. So, so there you are, really. Yeah, that Redorand's my answer for that question. So, okay, let's keep scrolling up here, and let's have a look. What else is there? This is from Blockhead555. He says, "Hi Jungles, I know Morrowind is your favourite Elder Scrolls game, but is it also your favourite province?" Good question. If it is, why? And if not, where is? Clearly they haven't been in all the games properly yet, so that might be an aggravating factor. Also, in the big 3 Elder Scrolls games, what is your favourite place you have visited in each one? Oh shit. Okay. Right, good questions. Right. Is it my favourite province, Morrowind? Like I said before, as a province, Skyrim is actually really kind of awesome, actually. And at least with Vardenfell, it's very difficult to choose between the two, but yeah, I'm going to say Morrowind probably is my favourite province we've seen so far, anyway. It's difficult to judge the other provinces based on lore alone, because if you had judged Cyrodiil based on the lore alone prior to Oblivion coming out, you would have got a completely different picture to how it actually was when they made Oblivion. So, yeah. Out of the ones that we've already seen, Morrowind's probably still my favourite province, just because, well, again, this is something I'll cover in a future video, really, but just because it's the weirdness, it's the bizarreness that makes me like it the most, I think. Never seen anything quite like it, you know. It's got that strangeness to it that I really like. It's the reason I like games like Planescape Torment. That game had some really bizarre and strange locales, and I've just nudged the thumbstick because I'm a dumbass. Whoops. So yeah, I'd probably say Morrowind is my favourite province. From what we've seen so far, I mean, because we've only seen Vardenfell, haven't we, really? We haven't seen the mainland of it, other than Mournhold. Like, inner Mournhold, you know. There are the Tamriel rebuilt guys making the rest of mainland Morrowind, and from what I've seen so far of that I mean, it's not official, obviously, but it's the closest you can get to official with those, you know, with those guys, because they have a design philosophy which is continuing the feel and look of the vanilla game, and they base every single thing they can possibly design in Tamriel rebuilt off of existing lore provided by Bethesda. So, you know, it's not technically official, but it's as close to official as you're going to get. So, and from what I've seen of Tamriel rebuilt, it's all equally as cool as the original Morrowind was. So, you know, yeah. Morrowind's probably still my favourite province, as well as my favourite game. And indeed, the reason it is my favourite game has a lot to do with the fact that it is my favourite province. So there you go. So, in the big... the other question. In the big 3 Elder Scrolls games, which is your favourite place you've visited in each one? Oh my, okay, so... Elder Scrolls Morrowind. Favourite places. Or favourite place. So difficult to choose. There's so many really cool places in that game, but Vivec City, I think, hands down, anywhere else. Vivec City is probably the best locale in that area in the game that I probably like the most, and it's the most memorable for me. The entirety of Vivec. What a great city! What a cool, you know. There's never been a city in an Elder Scrolls games, you know, before or since that has compared to Vivec in terms of how awesome it was, in my honest, humble opinion. So yeah, Morrowind, it would have to be Vivec. Oblivion, it would have to be... crikey. It's a toss-up between the Imperial City and the Shivering Isles. And I think I might have to hand it to the Shivering Isles, just because, well, you know, you've played the Shivering Isles, right? You know that place is amazing. So, New Sheoth, I think, specifically, is probably the most amazing place you can go in the Elder Scrolls for Oblivion. Definitely, I think so, yeah. So, Skyrim is a bit more difficult to choose because there are a number of really, really sweet locations. Oh, apologies for that random outburst of noise you heard in the background there. That was my dog. He heard someone at the front door and he started going berserk and squealing and shouting, and that's what he does, I'm afraid, when he hears someone at the front door. So sorry about that. Anyway, where the hell was I? Oh yeah, Skyrim. So Skyrim has a whole bunch of locations in it which are really, really amazing. You know, like, it has Blackreach, it has High Hrothgar, it has, you know, Sovngarde, it has, well, from what I've seen of the Soul Cairn as well, yeah, the Soul Cairn, I think the Soul Cairn's amazing. And I've not even played Dragonborn yet, so I can't even comment on Solstheim. So, yeah, Skyrim is a lot more difficult, because it has a whole bunch of different really cool locations in it, and, ooh, to choose between them, God, it's so difficult. I think ultimately it probably comes down to between Blackreach and Sovngarde, and I think I might have to give it to Sovngarde, even though it's smaller, because ultimately in Blackreach, well, Blackreach looks amazing. There's not actually a lot down there, and I suppose it's the same as Sovngarde, but there are some cool little details in Sovngarde which are actually quite amazing. Like stepping through the halls into Shaw's, you know, stepping through the doors into Shaw's Hall and being greeted by Ysgramor himself. That was pretty, you know, mental. Shaw's Hall itself is ridiculous. You know, the whole place, it's great. You know, I think it's awesome. It probably, yeah, I'd probably have to say Sovngarde is my favourite place I visited in Skyrim. So far, anyway. So far, you know. But yeah, like I said, the Soul Cairn, what I've seen of it so far is pretty awesome as well. And so is Blackreach. Soul Cairn's kind of awesome. It's kind of like Mordor, except they replaced all the red with purple. So there it is.